Hello and welcome back to the She Gallery Show. Thank you for being with us and thank you for being with us, Fez. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing very well.
So good. And we're so happy to have you guys here with us live on CAN TV. And you are live with us, which means that you can join the conversation and call us at 312-738-1060. That number will be on the bottom of the screen throughout the segment. Don't be shy. Give us a call. Join this conversation. It is a very special celebration that we have been celebrating with so many of Chicago's first-generation pioneers, celebrating family resemblance, the evolution of Chicago-style graffiti. And we've talked to Trickster, we've talked to Pengo, we've talked to B-Boy B, we've talked to Take Two, we've talked to East, we've talked to Sling, we've talked to so many pioneers, and now you are here. So many of you have heard stories about Fez and S.H.E Fez and the influence that Fez has left, and now we are so grateful to have Fez with us today. Especially after some hardships that we went through recently. A lot of people have been going through a lot of health issues, so we're so happy that you are doing well.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So S.H.E Fez, why don't you talk to us a little bit about who Fez is for those of you who do not know?
S.H.E Fez. Well, Fez is a old school writer. Well, you know what? I'm not old school. I'm older school. Older school writer from the 80s, where I kind of pretty much began, and just continued on, obviously, right along with raising my family. So there were a lot of things that I was not able to do, a lot of things that I was able to do, and I am so honored to, one, be here, and I'm so honored to have influenced some, or I don't know how many, but I've been so honored to have been an influence to some young kids that I've been told, like, man, because of you, I got into this. And I was like, oh, dude, thanks, you know? But as far as S.H.E, I mean, it's Fez. I'm Fez. I'm not like, damn, I'm Fez. That's, you know.
Fez. Where did the name Fez come from?
Before Fez, I used to write Freezari.
Freezari.
This
cold as ice.
There you go. This was during the beginning of the breakdance era. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to be cold. Everybody like freeze. Okay, so I was Freezari. Now,
so it's cool, right? It's cool. It's cold. So the colder you are, the cooler you are.
Exactly. So it was Freezari that came from Cesare, you know, which was a name that I had picked for my fashion design name that I wanted to be, a fashion designer and illustrator, which changed because of obviously monetary issues that I was told by at that point, my idol, Bill Blast, the designer. And it just changed, but I still kept the name. And then when the breakdancing scene hit Chicagoland, I was part of the Floor Master crew. And it went from Cesare to Freezari, because we were all cold. We all wanted to, and we all wanted to be cold. So I did that, and then I started basically writing, where I used to work at a warehouse, and automotive part warehouse, and there were a couple of times that cans were thrown out, and I'm like, well, why are they throwing these out? So
spray cans
were taken. So I would take them, and on my way home, walking home, now would be tagging, but most of mine would be throw ups. I was doing Freezari in these like squarish like letters, and then underneath I would always put the Chicago skyline.
And you were already decorating your life.
Yeah, and it got to the point where a couple of times I was stopped, because this was the middle of the night when I was coming home, like 5 or 6. I was stopped by police to ask me, what are you doing? Well, I'm coming home from work, and I would show them, my ID. And they're like, where are you going? And I told them where. And he's like, well, I wanted to ask you, do you know of this gang called Freezari? I'm like, what? No, I don't. Well, we've been seeing that quite a bit lately.
An entire gang?
Yeah, so I'm like, no, I don't know what. Okay, well, be careful going home. It's kind of rough out here. No problem. Thank you, officer. And I would go home and, with a big smile on my face because they thought it was a gang. And it wasn't until a couple of, obviously, within the group that we were in, the Floor Masters and a couple of other, hip hop group, that they realized that, well, that was me. I was Frizari. As far as Fest, that name went on, Frizari, until 1985 when my daughter Tess was born.
So he had Frizari until 1985.
Yes.
So when did Frizari come about?
Frizari came about. Oh wow, Frizari came about. I think in when the breakdancing scene hit Chicagoland, which was like about 82. When the breakdancing scene hit Chicagoland, that's when Frizari came about up until 1985 when my daughter was born. And of course, we named her Tess. And then it became like Tess's father. I'm like, you know what? So I'll combine both Tess's father to Fess. And it's been since 1985 to the present, it's been Fess. And it changed a little bit because everybody at one point that was a writer, whatever it wasn't just Rocks or Rocksky or, it was something. It was like Fesky Fest. Everybody added the SKI to their name. So with me, it was Fesky Fest. And then it just, obviously, I couldn't go and tag Fesky Fest all over the place. So it was just Fest, shorten it, Fest. And every piece that I did from that point on, they were all dedicated to my wife, Cindy, and my daughter, Tess.
Beautiful. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Tess. Cindy is out with us and in the hall. And then, so you became Fess. So at this point, you are a graffiti writer. And you started doing this, like you said, you just started picking it up off of the streets. When did you realize that you were creating graffiti, that you were doing graffiti, and that you were participating or contributing to the hip-hop movement as a breakdancer and as a graffiti writer?
Actually, I believe a lot of us did not go into it as, we're contributing to this scene or we're contributing to the lifestyle. Each one was doing their thing. There were, of course, the breakdancers and the graffiti writers, the rappers, and some had more than one skill that was in them. For me, it's always been an art because since a little kid, I've always been an artist. But I wasn't doing it because it was part of the culture. I think many of us didn't realize that until years later. Okay, but for me, it was just fun to be out there, fun to have my name, And of course, a lot of people were like, you know what, this is my name, and I'm going to go all city with this, and I'm going to do this. With me, it was more of like, all city writers, ACW. And I think it was kind of part of the whole generation that everybody at that point wanted to be noticed in one way or another, rather than being in gangs, rather than doing, that. Because I grew up in Pilsen and Little Village, which was like the heart of a lot of the gang violence that I saw so much. I've met so many people, and so it was like I did not want to go that route. Even though there were like pushes to go, hey, you got to join us, or otherwise, this. But I decided I didn't want to, so I went this other route. So I chose my art to go that route. Now it became obviously a hip hop phenomenon worldwide, which was great for a lot of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know in some segments I've talked about how growing up in the hood, you don't really have a choice to become a gangbanger or not. It's if you are not a gangbanger, you will be V'd into a gang. So you're either folks or you're people, and if you're neutral, then you get V'd in. And I keep saying that when you choose this element of graffiti, that you're left alone, and that's partially not true. And we learned that in interviewing, Pango, where he's like, oh, we had to finish this piece. We were getting shot at, but we knew that we had to finish this piece. So we had to appease the gangbangers by adding a 5-point crown star or a 6-point crown star. So you weren't really completely left alone, but the gangbangers would cut you some slack. because
Yeah.
you know, growing up with gangbangers and knowing gangbangers, I understand, me personally know that gangbangers are taking care of their neighborhood. That's what they're thinking they're doing, is taking care of their neighborhood, taking care of their people, and a lot of that is taking care of kids. If you look at a lot of gangbangers, a lot of them are kids. They're not out there totally by themselves. There's always a count or somebody older that's telling them to do this, this, and that. And that kid looks up to that count because that count was taking care of that neighborhood. And that's the way that they kind of help out the graffiti writer, and allow, you know, kind of like helping you out or not. So you did graffiti, and I want to touch base on you as a designer, right? We're talking about the Chicago style graffiti that's being developed here in Chicago in the super early 80s. You know, as you mentioned, I pick up a can. I'm not necessarily influenced by anybody in New York. I just do it. And automatically you start showing love to your city. You start putting the skyline. You know,
Exactly.
automatically it came through from your heart without thinking about what you were doing. So automatically something very organic that came to you was designing, right? And you
Yes.
talk about fashion design, and in talking to Trickster, B-Boy B, and many of our pioneers, we talk about how, we were decorating our clothes.
Exactly.
You know, we look at your hat. You know, let's talk about these,
Well, at one
these
point,
symbols, these fashion symbols.
At one point, still at Holy Trinity High School, like I said, I wanted to be a fashion illustrator or fashion designer. But also during that time, I was also one of the dance groups in Chicago, the Culitos.
Talk to us about los colitos.
Well, the Culitos was a dance group that originated in Holy Trinity High School by Radar. And then it kind of evolved to where going to Janelle's, going to the different clubs and dancing and stuff like that. Now, I was part of the South Side because I lived on the South Side, and I rarely would go to the North Side, but other than Janelle's and stuff like that. It was one of those that the fashion had to be there. Other than your dancing, you had to stand out. There was something that needed to be different about you. Mm-hmm. And at that time, of course, I was a fashion design illustrator that I wanted to be. I was designing my own outfits, like the tops mainly, and I would design and make some outfits for my wife as well. So when we would go out to these clubs, you know, we would both be wearing stuff that I made.
That's
you know,
so dope.
And of course that changed. And rather than fashion design, I went ahead and went into the graphic design and advertising. I was still in the art fashion, you know, in the art industry basically. You learn a lot of things once you get into something. I learned the hard way that in order to be a fashion designer, you have to have a financial backing, which I didn't have. In order to do advertising design, just like anywhere, you start from the bottom up. But sometimes it's not fair because your designs are picked, your designs are created, and the top guy, the CEO in that agency gets the money, gets the billing, gets the recognition, and you get a pizza party. You know, and this is and sometimes a pat on the back, not always. This is when I kind of realized, you know what am I doing? I started to do airbrushing as well as my graffiti. I was doing airbrushing on T-shirts and whatnot. And I started going to the Division Flea Market, you know, and I was doing that every weekend. Realized that in one weekend, I was making more doing that than I was doing a full week. And at the advertising agency, America, exactly. So I was like, you know what, I'm out of here. Decided to stop there. And like I told you before, and I tell people, and I'm so happy to tell people, I haven't had a real job in 36 years.
That is your real job.
Well, you know what I mean. Real job. I mean,
you're not working for somebody else. You're working for yourself.
It's you've heard the saying. When you're doing something that you love, it's not a job.
Aww.
It's something that, you know, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it no longer becomes a job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's your passion.
That's my passion, and I know a bunch of my graffiti brothers out there are doing the same thing. They took their skills and the graffiti, and they took their skills and honed them into their passion, into other, into becoming artists and being artists.
Just by valuing yourself, huh?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, and
that's dope.
that's what I wanna have these kids nowadays. And I've talked to several kids and stuff, and let them know that, and I've let them know that what the new what the new thing has been lately has been, you can do whatever you want. You can and you should. For many years when I was, doing my art and stuff like that, all my grandfather was a welder. My uncles were welders, and one of my uncles, and I'll put it in Spanish the way he did, and I'll translate it. No, viejo, ¿qué estás haciendo con ese arte? No, hombre, mira, los soldadures donde está en la feria, viejo. I was like, what? Which meant, what are you doing with that artsy stuff? No, dude, you got to become a welder. That's where the money's at. I'm like, no, I didn't want to become a welder. I could have, but I didn't want to. And it was, these are these same people that nowadays are like, hey, viejo, hazme una camiseta, no? Like, make me a shirt. Or now one of my uncles, hey, can you hook me up with another tattoo? This, I thought my art wasn't gonna take me anywhere.
Yeah,
luckily, this is what I tell kids: if that's your passion, do it. Not that you gotta quit school. No, keep going to school, but keep on your passion, and eventually that should go somewhere where it's gonna help you.
Mm-hmm. If you're able to afford school, a lot of people aren't able to afford school.
Exactly.
I couldn't afford school. But you learn and you do what you can with what you can. Now, you did go to school, right? What did you study?
Graphic design and advertising. Graduated out of Columbia College in 91.
And this has helped you continue to hone your skills and
continue
Yes,
exactly. On. Now, unfortunately, back in the day, the stuff that I learned in Columbia College helped a lot, but at the same time, it's kind of useless where I was doing paste up and this and the old-fashioned way. Now it's all okay. Put it on the computer, put it on Photoshop, digital, and done. Stuff that was taking us 3-4 hours to do now it takes 3-4 minutes to do. With that.
Have you evolved with technology?
Oh, of course. You have to. You have to, no matter what you do, you have to evolve.
You're also a tattoo writer.
I am also a tattoo artist. So basically, let's say my art has carried me from high school, and then throughout college, which was, let's say, graffiti, and then into airbrushing, which I still do. And then from airbrushing, about 22, 23 years ago, I was inside the discount mall where I had my shop from like 91 to like about 10 years ago. And I had a lot of requests for people to ask, to tattoo them. At the time, I didn't know how, but they would ask me to draw something for them. So I would. And then I got to the point where like, hey, wait a minute, I'm sending too many people out of here. So I had a friend of mine, Steven Cancino, that showed me the basics. And I just picked it up from there and kept going. And like I said, 23 years later, I'm still doing it. So I'm still doing a little bit of everything else as far as my airbrushing and graffiti. Once in a great while when I'm able to get out and do it. Not that I don't love it. I love it. It's my passion. But it's like, okay, or you pay these bills or you go and have fun with Flash and Take and, and Trickster and all of them. Mm-hmm. I would love to do that, but bills got to get paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And then something else that you mentioned, taking your passion and you made a job out of that, owning your skills. And something that you mentioned is the way that you were taught to tattoo, right? There was a demand that came to you from your skill. People started asking you to continue to do this for them. And then one of your friends taught you the ropes. He said, this is how you do it. So you're talking about you go to Columbia, right? And school's not cheap or free. and you learn some things, but then you have a friend that just teaches you, and that's where you really actually learn. I just want to
Exactly.
I want to highlight that a little bit, because
Well,
with what I do, sorry, just really quick, where I'm going with this is that graffiti does that as well. You know, like with Take Two, when we're talking about crews or the development of Chicago style graffiti, it was just that, having these conversations of, oh, you could do it like this. Oh, maybe you should do that. Maybe you should try that color. Maybe you should try that outline. Maybe you should try this. Maybe so you're helping each other out, and that's another part of another beauty of the part of hip hop, that you guys support each other.
I think it's not another. I think that's the main.
The main, definitely.
The main
the
part,
unity,
because
the knowledge,
you're
sharing.
whatever you know, whether there's always going to be a much better artist than you. Don't ever
You're
be like,
using the eye
oh,
of
I'm
the
the guy.
beholder, yeah.
No, there always will be. But you have your own things that
Everybody's
you can
unique.
do. That yeah, you are unique now. But that's the main thing, where you're going to take what you know and instill it to somebody that's coming up that doesn't know that, or that maybe they know, but if you teach them that little, can control or this or that, they'll be like, okay. Now, at this point, I'm very, very, very proud of one of my graffiti kids.
Who's your graffiti kid?
Well, I have two graffiti kids. One, and sorry to say, is my favorite, is East.
Oh,
East.
East loves you too, from what I hear.
The other one is Kato. Kato has become.
You're talking about these people, your kids, are grown kids.
Well, they're grown kids, but that's just it.
Yes.
Mind you, when I was doing this, I was, let's say, 20, 21 years old. I had a family, had a wife and a kid, and these kids were teenagers, young teenagers, where they would, call their parents and say, hey, I'm sleeping over, Fes's house. And they're thinking, oh, okay, cool, he's a grown man. No, man. I was taking them with me to a wall. Like, for instance, no, never to the yards. I never did
you were
the
a
yards
good dad.
like that. I was taking them up. Like, say, for instance, I heard one time that the Douglas B line, the Western station, there was a huge factory there, and I was told that was my gallery, because nobody was really going up there. I knew how to get up there, and all these walls, they were perfect there. It was all me.
Dope.
And then I took East for his very first piece, to do out there like that. I took him on that particular wall.
Welcome to my gallery.
And then kind of got him hooked. One of the things, I don't know.
Got him hooked?
One of the things that I don't know if he mentioned, but one of the things that I instilled in him and other kids was the fact that when you go up there, when you're doing a piece, especially an illegal piece, or nowadays legal pieces, clean up after yourself.
Aww.
Because, look, as a homeowner, as a business owner, if you're going to get out there, they already messed up my wall, this and that, but then yet they have to clean up after you. That's the first thing they're going to think, you know what, I'm going to erase this because they made me clean this up. Not only did they mess up my wall, according to them, but they left all this mess here. So one thing that a couple years ago, not too long ago, he did mention the fact that he took from me that, after anything he does pick up after himself. So my graffiti kids are learning.
Good children. Let's go to some of your images. I know we could talk forever, and then the show's going to be over, and we're going to be like, oh, we didn't show any pictures. Let's show some cool old school pictures. Can you guys see that? Yeah.
This was at the Art Alley in South Dakota, in Rapids, South Dakota.
What year was this? Do you remember? I'm going to go through these fairly quickly.
This was like about 5 years ago.
Oh, this is fairly recent?
Yeah, this was 5 years ago.
And it has like such an old school feel to it.
Well, this was basically kind of a quick throw up that I did after doing another piece there.
That's so
and
dope.
It was, it was taken very well. A lot of people were talking about that one.
Yeah, I love it. It gives a very old school feel.
Yeah,
even
those
the
throw
way
up,
that
and
the
of course
letters
the
are,
Cheech Wizard
stars.
letters.
They look like knuckles. The way that the letters are designed.
Well, that was the old
like
school bubble
the knuckles,
letters.
That's dope.
Yeah, the old
I
school
love
throw
the
up bubble
letters.
letters. And of course the lizard, the Bodhi lizard. This is one of my favorite pieces.
Old school.
This is, it says Cindy. This was done right off of the Hoyne, out of the Hoyne station. And if you notice, this was done in '85. And then on the bottom it says "Love You, Babe,"
Oops,
and it
sorry.
was, it was dedicated to Cindy. Let's see, dedicate. And then on the right side it says "To Tess."
Sorry, I think we're missing.
Oh, right there.
Here we go.
And this was kind of dubbed by Flash. Not this one, the Cindy one was kind of dubbed by Flash. My graffiti letters, my spaghetti letters.
Okay.
Let's see if we could get back to this.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We're missing a lot of photos, so we're gonna see if our producer can get us the rest of those images. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
of course, yeah. Like I said, that one, and then many other, pieces that I did were dedicated to the wife and kids.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Technical difficulties happen.
No. Okay, so I'm so sorry. I have you on here and I'm trying to figure out the pictures, so I'm sorry. So, okay, so we lost the pictures. We lost a lot of the pictures, so I'm really sorry for that.
No, don't be.
But you can talk to us a little bit more about family resemblance and what that means to you
Well,
and the
to
roster
me-
that we have.
To me, is that it's a family resemblance, whether we're ultimately, we've all become brothers and sisters, because we've all become brothers and sisters, even if we haven't seen a certain writer in years. When you do see him, you're so glad that you saw him. You're like, oh my God, dude, where have you been? How have you been? And then you go into the, man, remember when, this and that. We start talking about the Sheldon days, where where I met a lot of the writers, because I used to work at Sheldon's art supply store on Wabash, and a lot of the writers were going there and racking some of their supplies. And I would notice, and obviously you would notice a writer right away by looking at his hands, and they always had paint. So, hey bro, you're a writer, right? And they would look at me like, like, dude, it's cool, I'm a writer too, but hey, what do you write? And then, you would meet them. And then I would introduce them to the manager, Bill Finley. And he was very instrumental in a lot of these guys' lives, where he decided to kind of take them under his wing and give them, so they wouldn't rack. He would give them employee discount, and he put this foam core in front of them, like his desk, where it was a tagging board. He had everybody, come and tag it and stuff. So that was like kind of a hub there downtown. Then from there, everybody went on, their own way. That's what I'm saying. When you see some
What year was this?
Oh, we're looking at 80.
I was going to try to pull up the pictures,
From
but now
the-
they're telling us we got 1 minute, so I'm really
From
sorry.
the 80s. From, like I say, from like 85 to 90, around there. I mean, it's just kind of when graffiti blew up,
And that was the meetup. You guys may remember with some of the interviews that we had with East, with Trickster, there's a lot of conversation about Sheldon's, Rainbow Club.
The Rainbow, Sheldon's,
yeah.
a lot of the like battles and stuff like that.
And
And
Bill
89,
Finley.
Keith Haring coming to Chicago.
That's why we really wanted to show you guys the pictures. I'm really upset about that.
But we'll have other times to
yeah,
do
we
so.
got really, really good photos, and I resent them twice. So
Not a problem.
when we do a recap with you guys, stay in touch so you guys can take a look at all of the awesome photos. I know that when we were on with Traz a few seasons ago, he talked to us about projects that he did with Keith Haring. EA talked to us about projects that he did with Keith Haring. And we also had Fess sharing some stories. So for those of you who are familiar with Keith Haring, he was a street artist, became very popular. He died of AIDS.
Yes.
And he was able to be a part, or to at least get a taste of the Chicago graffiti scene here, that he actually really looked up to. Keith Haring was a street artist. So that's real dope. Now, we only have like barely any time. So do you want to leave the audience with anything else before we head out?
First thing is, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. He
And
just got out the hospital, y'all. Blessings.
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 Thank you for having me here. Anybody listening, anybody watching out there, Fest loves you guys. Love each other. Don't overlook that young kid that needs your help, because that's the kid that's going to make it. That's the kid that's going to make it, and it's going to be thanks to you.
I'm going to cry. But I have to go. All right. We'll see you
Thank
guys
you.
next week. Actually, swing by on Sunday. Sunday's on
Sunday.
State Street. We're going to have
Actually-
legendary Chicago our writers from this exhibition doing some live painting. And the guys that are not going to be doing live painting are going to be hanging out. So come
I
through.
will be there.
Yes.
Because my son's going to be there.
East is going to be here from out of town. I think everybody's going to be there. Pango's going to swing by too. So
Nice.
y'all come through.
Come through.
Come through. Peace.